Welcome to Hong Kong Brief. The content of the briefing includes Wagamama owner to be taken private by Apollo in £506 million deal. Morning update, Israel conducts large-scale strike on Gaza as Blinken heads to region. Chinese hopes ended at Hong Kong Tennis Open as Wang Xinyu limps out. Hong Kong listed firms not ready for imminent climate-related disclosure rules. Pre-market, world shares rise as rates debate heats up. Wagamama owner to be taken private by Apollo in £506 million deal. Telegraph. Private equity firm Apollo is set to acquire UK hospitality business, the Restaurant Group, TRG, in a £506 million, $659 million, deal. Apollo will pay 65p per share, a 34% premium on TRG's share price at the close of trading on Wednesday. The deal comes after a series of activist investors, including Oasis Management and Coltrane Asset Management, pressured TRG's board and CEO Andy Hornby. TRG recently sold its casual dining chains to Big Table Group for a nominal fee of £1. TRG shares have fallen 70% over the past 5 years. Morning update, Israel conducts large-scale strike on Gaza as Blinken heads to region. The Globe and Mail. Israel's military has announced that it is conducting a large-scale strike on Hamas targets in Gaza. Meanwhile, U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken is headed to the region to meet with leaders on both sides of the conflict. Israeli jets have been targeting Gaza in retaliation for an attack by Hamas militants over the weekend. The attack saw Hamas militants breach the border fence, killing 1,300 people, injuring over 2,700, and taking scores of hostages. The Israeli military has not provided further details about the large-scale strike. Blinken has arrived in Israel to show Washington's support and seek to secure the release of captives, including Americans, and to prevent a wider war. Chinese hopes ended at Hong Kong Tennis Open as Wang Xinyu limps out. South China Morning Post. China's Wang Xinyu has been knocked out of the Prudential Hong Kong Tennis Open after losing to Spain's Sarah Sorbi's Tormo in 3 sets. Wang, who is struggling with a long-term knee injury, hinted that she may end her season early due to the injury. The 4th seed lost 6-4, 4-6, 6-1 in 2 hours and 15 minutes. Wang's exit comes after top seed Victoria Azarenka withdrew from the tournament due to injury. Hong Kong listed firms not ready for imminent climate-related disclosure rules. South China Morning Post. Hong Kong listed companies need to improve their climate-related reporting as new requirements are phased in, according to PwC. The company studied 300 Hong Kong listed firms and found that just a quarter had disclosed their Scope 3 greenhouse gas emissions in their financial reports. The proposed changes mean that from next year, companies will need to state the upstream and downstream activities that generate Scope 3 emissions. After 2 years, they will have to quantify these emissions. PwC said that companies should start preparing for these changes as soon as possible. Pre-market, world shares rise as rates debate heats up. The Globe and Mail. World shares rose on Thursday and the US dollar and bond market borrowing costs held steady ahead of US inflation data and European Central Bank meeting minutes that will help investors gauge the path of interest rates. The week's sharp escalation of Middle East tensions has ensured the mood remained cautious, but European stocks shuffled to a 3-week high early on after a 1.75% jump from Tokyo had done the same for Asia. Uniqlo owner Fast Retailing sees 18% rise in annual profit, plans more stores in China. Reuters. Japanese clothing brand Fast Retailing, which owns Uniqlo, has forecast 18% growth in annual profit as it plans to expand in key markets including China. The company plans to open 80 new stores a year in Greater China, 20 stores in North America, and 10 in Europe. It already has more Uniqlo outlets in mainland China than in Japan. Fast Retailing CEO Tadashi Yanai said that consumers are now putting greater emphasis on value over luxury and are looking to reduce surplus items in favor of simpler living. Chinese officials urge calm after Evergrande fears reportedly spark small bank run. CNN. The Bank of Zhangzhou in China experienced a run on its deposits amid fears that its exposure to Evergrande's debt issues would cause a cash crunch. Police in Zhangzhou arrested several people accused of spreading rumors about the bank's situation. The bank, which denied having any liquidity issues, has a statement from the city government posted at its entrance, assuring depositors that their funds are safe. China says U.S. should not interfere after human rights lawyer deported back. Reuters. China's foreign ministry has urged the United States not to interfere in China's handling of legal cases after the U.S. called on Beijing to provide information on the whereabouts of a Chinese human rights lawyer. Rights lawyer Liu Siwei was extradited to China in September after being detained for over 2 months in Laos. Liu had taken on politically sensitive cases, including one involving 12 Hong Kong citizens who were arrested by the Chinese Coast Guard in 2020 as they tried to flee on a boat to Taiwan. Hong Kong Virtual Bank CA and Mox's mobile apps among the world's best, study. South China Morning Post. Hong Kong's digital banks have been ranked among the top 10 globally in a study on mobile banking apps by French consultancy SIA Partners. ZA Bank, Hong Kong's largest virtual bank, ranked 6th, while Mox Bank, backed by Standard Chartered, ranked 10th. Singapore's DBS Bank was ranked 7th. SIA Partners study assessed 148 banking apps in 19 markets and ranked them based on 85 criteria such as user experience and functionality. The study noted that while Hong Kong's digital banks scored highly in certain areas, they still lagged behind their Western peers in some respects. Former president demands apology from Forbes for being cut from wealthiest list again. The Guardian. Former U.S. President Donald Trump has demanded an apology from Forbes after the magazine dropped him from its list of the 400 wealthiest people in the U.S. for the second time in 3 years. Trump complained about really dumb writers assigned to hit me hard and bragged about leads in Republican presidential polling, despite facing 91 criminal charges and assorted civil threats. Forbes released its Trump-free list last week, saying his net worth was down $600 million from a year before. Hard yards at base camp put McAvoy in hot seat for assault on summit. The Sydney Morning Herald. Karen McAvoy will ride Shinzo in the Everest, the world's richest race on turf, following the colt's impressive performance in a barrier trial. Chris Waller, Shinzo's trainer, said McAvoy's experience and calmness made him the ideal jockey for the 3-year-old colt. The partnership between McAvoy and Waller has won 5 of the 7 previous editions of the Everest, but they have never won the race together. Blackstone moves China PE head to oversee Asia Wealth Unit. Bloomberg. Blackstone is moving its head of China private equity investments, Ed Huang, to oversee private wealth for Asia Pacific. The world's biggest alternative asset manager is looking to bolster revenue from rich clients in the region. Huang will be replaced by Haid Hong, who will become the head of acquisitions for China. Blackstone has been ramping up hiring in the region as it seeks to build up its funds by tapping private banks, wealth advisors, and family offices. Blackstone currently has $240 billion in assets in its private wealth business. Frankie Dettori U-turns on retirement to keep riding in U.S. Telegraph. Jockey Frankie Dettori has announced that he will continue his career in the U.S. and ride until 2024. The 52-year-old, who plans to have his last rides in Britain on Kipco British Champions Day at Ascot, said he is simply not ready to retire completely and wants to continue on the international circuit. Dettori has had a stellar season, winning 28 races and £4.5 million, $6 million, in prize money from just 117 rides. He has also expressed a desire to compete in the Breeders' Cup and the Melbourne Cup. Templewater nears buying controlling stake in Lu units, sources say. Bloomberg. Hong Kong-based private equity firm Templewater is reportedly nearing a deal to acquire a controlling stake in Lu Medical Group's oncology and cardiology businesses in Singapore. The potential deal values the assets at around 460 million Singapore dollars, $337 million, including debt, and Templewater could acquire about a 51% stake. An announcement of the agreement may be made in the coming weeks. Lilly Medical's oncology business has attracted interest from healthcare firms and financial investors, and the company is working with an advisor. The deal could still fall apart at the last minute. Huawei's comeback and Japan's time to shine. Nikkei Asia. Companies and investors in Taiwan are increasingly looking to Japan as an alternative to China amid ongoing geopolitical tensions, according to Nikkei Asia. Taiwanese firms have reportedly been investing in Japanese property due to the weakening yen, while tech executives have said the time is ripe for collaboration and investment in Japan to reduce dependence on China. Meanwhile, Huawei is stockpiling components and aims to double its smartphone shipments to 70 million units by 2024. However, the US is planning to expand the scope of its export controls on chip-making tools and AI chips, which could present major hurdles for Huawei's comeback plan. The European Union is also looking to reduce its reliance on China and Chinese tech, but its heavy trade dependence with China will make this difficult. Saudi Arabia's King Abdullah University of Science and Technology, KAUST, is collaborating with Chinese universities to develop AI, but there are concerns that the partnership could jeopardize KAUST's access to US-made chips. That's it for today's news updates. Let's recap what we've learned. 1. Private equity firm Apollo is set to acquire UK hospitality business, the Restaurant Group, in a £506 million deal. TRG has faced pressure from activist investors and recently sold its casual dining chains. 2. Israel is conducting a large-scale strike on Hamas targets in Gaza, while U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken is headed to the region to meet with leaders on both sides of the conflict. 3. Chinese tennis player Wang Xinyu has been knocked out of the Hong Kong Tennis Open due to a knee injury, hinting that she may end her season early. 4. Hong Kong-listed companies need to improve their climate-related reporting as new requirements are phased in. According to PwC, companies will need to disclose their Scope 3 greenhouse gas emissions in their financial reports. 5. World shares rose as investors awaited U.S. inflation data and European Central Bank meeting minutes. Middle East tensions have kept the mood cautious, but European stocks reached a 3-week high. 6. Fast Retailing, the owner of Uniqlo, has forecast 18% growth in annual profit as it plans to expand in China and other key markets. Consumers are shifting towards value and simpler living. 7. The Bank of Zhangzhou in China experienced a run on its deposits amid fears of a cash crunch due to its exposure to Evergrande's debt issues. The bank denies having any liquidity issues. 8. China's foreign ministry has urged the U.S. not to interfere in China's handling of legal cases after the U.S. called for information on a Chinese human rights lawyer's whereabouts. 9. Hong Kong's digital banks, ZA Bank and Mox Bank, have been ranked among the top 10 globally in a study on mobile banking apps. SIA Partners assessed 148 banking apps based on user experience and functionality. 10. Former U.S. President Donald Trump has demanded an apology from Forbes after being dropped from its list of the 400 wealthiest people in the U.S. Trump faces criminal charges but claims to have leads in Republican presidential polling. 11. Jockey Frankie Dettori has announced that he will continue his career in the U.S. and ride until 2024. He plans to compete in international races such as the Breeders' Cup and the Melbourne Cup. 12. Blackstone is moving its head of China private equity investments to oversee private wealth for Asia-Pacific as it seeks to bolster revenue from rich clients in the region. 13. Templewater, a Hong Kong-based private equity firm, is reportedly nearing a deal to acquire a controlling stake in Lilly Medical Group's oncology and cardiology businesses in Singapore. 14. Companies and investors in Taiwan are looking to Japan as an alternative to China amid ongoing geopolitical tensions. Huawei is aiming for a comeback, but faces challenges due to U.S. export controls. That's all for now. Remember, if you have any thoughts or questions, I'd love to hear from you. What are your thoughts on today's news? Thank you for tuning in. The content above showcases the latest briefing reports and analytical synopses, thoughtfully curated by the 6Do team. These insights stem from a wide array of reputable media outlets, think tanks, government sources, and specialized experts worldwide. We encourage you to explore these sources for a comprehensive perspective. Keep in mind that while the content may not always align with the official standpoint of 6Do Brief, it's not meant to be taken as absolute directives for decision-making. Comprising seasoned media professionals, learned scholars, and accomplished scientists, the 6Do team embodies a trailblazing, fully independent media entity. To customize 6Do Brief to meet your professional needs, you have the option to subscribe to a diverse array of briefings on our website, 6dobrief.com. Regardless of your location, you can conveniently receive 6Do Brief via email.